welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzi, and we have a great show for you today. First topic we'll be going over is the heartbreaking news of Ronald Acuña Jr. tearing his ACL again and being out for the entire season for the Atlanta Braves. After that, we'll be going over Paul Skeens and his tremendous start to the season and my overall thoughts on him and the Pirates. After that, we'll be going over Mason Miller and the Oakland Athletics and just what's been going on with his season and how incredible it's been. And finally, for the fourth and fifth segments, we'll be going over my takeaways from the American League and National League standings while I have been out. Now, as I said, I have been out for a little bit, so it is great to talk to you guys again and be back on the show. I was out for 2 weeks. I had some personal things planned before I did end up doing this, so I did have to take some time off, but I'm very glad to be back. I'm very excited to be back. I'm very excited to be talking baseball here again with all of you guys. Very exciting for me. Always have a great time doing it. So, yeah, we're going to get straight into it. We talk about our first segment here, which is going to be going over the huge breaking news that did end up breaking last night, which was Ronald Acuña Jr. and his ACL tear for the Atlanta Braves. Now, obviously, Ronald Acuña Jr. is the reigning MVP in Major League Baseball, one of the best players in the entire league. I don't really think that has to be said at this point. We all know how good he is, and the fact that he did tear his ACL again is extremely heartbreaking and a really, really sad story in baseball this year. So I want to go over just the impact on the Braves first of all, and I think the impact on the Braves really cannot be overstated. I mean, Acuña is a guy who year in and year out is in contention for being the best player in baseball, one of the faces of our league, and the fact that you have now lost him for the entire year, I mean, there's no if, ands, or buts about it. When you tear your ACL, you're done for the year. Especially as a baseball player, I mean, there's no coming back from that. Your knee, obviously, is a major part of everything you do as a baseball player, and it's a huge injury for a baseball player. So having this type of injury this early into the season is extremely heartbreaking, especially for Acuña, a guy who has dealt with a lot of injuries in his past before, tore his other ACL in the past as well, which is something we'll be going further on in this segment. So, yeah, the fact that you're having your best player out, I'd say he's their best player. I don't really think anyone would argue with that. Your best player is now out for the season already. It's really something that is extremely heartbreaking and disheartening if you are a Braves fan. I mean, you've already had a little bit of a rough start to the season so far. The Phillies, of course, are in first place in the NL East, not you, which is something that is very surprising. I mean, it's also a good amount of a gap between you guys. It's not like it's 1 or 2 games. No, it's a significant amount. And when you look at the Braves, you think of how dominant this team has been in the past, having that stronghold on the NL East. And the fact that you don't right now, and you just lost Acuña, I'd be very worried. I mean, you look at this team, and losing Acuña is so heartbreaking and just affects your team in so many ways. I mean, your offense now is significantly worse, and it's going to be interesting to see if they do try to combat this injury. Now, there are a few options for what the Braves can do. I mean, first of all, I think the most likely option that is going to happen is going to be having Jarred Kelenic and Adam Duvall both become everyday players. Duvall and Kelenic were being platoon bats in left field for each other. Kelenic against right-handers, Duvall against left-handers. But now with Acuña being out for the rest of the year and not being an option, I would say that both of them would probably be starting every day now. Duvall against righties, Kelenic against lefties. I think Duvall can handle righties honestly pretty fine, but Kelenic against lefties is something I'm worried about. I don't really think Kelenic is that great of a player anyways, and his strong suit is definitely against righties, so now the fact that you're going to be throwing him in against lefties every single day does create kind of a black hole at the end of your lineup. So that's something I'm not really excited about if I was a Braves fan. But again, Braves traded for him for a reason. Apparently, as they said in the offseason, he was the only position player they tried to acquire this offseason, so they obviously see something in him. They obviously like him. Obviously has huge pedigree, being a former top prospect of the Mets, former top prospect of the Mariners, former high overall draft pick by the Mets. So there could still be something left in there. Maybe the Braves see it. Personally, I don't, but I'm not a major league executive, so we'll have to see what happens there with Kelenic. After that, there is another option, which is going to be Marcell Ozuna. You could have him play every day in the outfield. He is your starting DH currently, has been one of the best hitters in baseball this year after a rocky couple of years before, dealing with some legal issues. So you could potentially play him in the outfield, then have a DH combination of Travis d'Arnaud and Sean Murphy. Both are obviously two of your starting catchers, and having one of them play catcher and one of them play DH on and off days is something that is very possible. Murphy was out for most of this year, just came back after an injury. So you are getting him back, even though you are losing Acuña. So obviously I'd say you don't want to lose Acuña, but at least you're getting some sort of news with it. I guess that is a positive, getting Murphy back. So it is a possibility that you could play Ozuna in the outfield and have Sean Murphy and Travis d'Arnaud catch and DH both switch in that role. I don't think that's very likely, as much as Ozuna is a great hitter, and I think this would be the best hitting combination. The outfield defense Ozuna brings is absolutely horrible. I mean, Acuña wasn't the best defensive outfielder, no doubt about it, but at the same time, he had speed, he had an arm at least, but Ozuna has none of that. I mean, this guy cannot field, so I do understand there's a little trepidation if you are a Braves fan, or if you're a Braves general manager, putting Ozuna in the outfield when he is just a DH. Personally, I get that, and I do understand. So I get that. Another one is keeping with the platoon of Kelenic and Duvall and putting in JP Martinez or Forrest Wall in there in right. Both are guys in AAA. Both are your main depth pieces for the outfield. Forrest Wall has been doing really well in AAA, so that is an option. I would say that is a possibility there for the Braves, but right now, it seems to be that Duvall and Kelenic will both be in the outfield for the rest of the year. Again, there is an option to trade for someone at the deadline. There are a lot of good options, I'd say, that are available if you would like to trade for anyone. But right now, I think that's what it is, and it is a significant blow to the Braves. Obviously, I mean, whenever you lose the reigning NL MVP, I'd say it's going to be something that is pretty significant. There's no real doubt about that. So, yeah, if I'm a Braves fan, I'm not feeling great today, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm feeling really disappointed about the season. I mean, we could say with the excuses, the last time Acuña tore his ACL, the Braves won the World Series. Yes, that's true, but that's just, I'd say that's extreme cherry picking at this point. So you're looking at the Braves right now, and you're not feeling great. I mean, you just lost Acuña. You've lost Spencer Strider before. Arguably your two best players. How are you going to deal with this? Yes, Chris Sale's been stepping up in the rotation, but is he really the guy you want starting Game 2 of your playoff run with, Max Fried obviously going Game 1? Is that really who you want going for Game 2 in 2024? I'm not exactly sure. Do you really want Adam Duvall and Jared Kelenic being two major hitters in your lineup in the playoffs? Not really sure. So right now, if you're a Braves fan, with all the underperformance you've had in the playoffs since 2021, since you won that World Series these past few years, it's not looking real great for you guys right now. Again, you haven't had a great run of it these last few years, especially in the playoffs, and losing your two best players, I'd say, is something that is going to be a significant blow to your team, and it is something that is going to affect you in the long run. Do I say their title hopes are dead? No, I don't. Do I think they're on life support? Yes. I think there's a lot of great teams in the NL this year. The Phillies are looking spectacular. Yes, they've played bad teams, but you can only beat who you've played, so I'm not going to give any flack to the Phillies whatsoever. The Dodgers, of course, are a super team. I mean, you have other great teams in the NL who have really surprised you, like the Cubs, the Brewers. There's a lot of good teams in the NL West. I mean, the Padres, after the Lisa Rise trade, are looking good. Diamondbacks, I still believe in. So there's a few other teams I think could make some noise. So if you're a Braves fan, you're going to have to proceed with caution for the rest of the year, seeing what does happen. So, yeah, I'm not excited about the rest of the season if I was a Braves fan as much as I was before. Definitely not looking great for you guys, and losing Acuña is a huge blow. And, yeah, it's looking a little rough right now. Now, another thing I want to talk about is long-term. How is this going to affect Acuña? Now, you may think, that's just an overreaction. I mean, everyone goes through injuries. Yes, very true. But at the same time, Acuña's had a significant amount of injuries for a guy in his career. He tore his ACL in 21. He was limited by the ACL in 22. 23, when fully healthy, he won an MVP. 24, he tore his ACL again. And it's in both knees now. So now, very early into his career, before even hitting his second contract, he's torn ACLs in both his knees. We've seen how great he is when fully healthy. 2023 won the MVP, but at the same time, this year is gone. This year's done, obviously. 24, who knows how it's going to affect him with the ACL. It did, obviously, in 2022 when he was recovering from it. So, I don't want to say this because it's really sad, but is Acuña going to become a what-if story? Is he going to become a guy we look at as, wow, his career could have been amazing if he stayed healthy? that's something you really have to wonder right now, because tearing the ACLs in both your knees at this young of an age in this early into your career is something that is extremely significant, and is something that is going to affect him long term, and it's something that I am going to be watching. Now, I think this year's obviously a wash. Next year could be a wash, depending on how his recovery goes. Didn't go well last time. 2026, we'll have to see. That's a long time away. So if I'm a Braves fan, I'm definitely worried about that, and I don't want Acuña to become a what-if, because we've seen what this guy does when he's fully healthy. He won the MVP last year. He had one of the greatest seasons in baseball history ever last year because he won the MVP. Every MVP year is the greatest of all time, probably except for 2020. So, yeah, I'm really just fascinated to see where Acuña's career does go from here. Not a good fascinated, because, again, I think it's a negative and it's something that is unfortunate, but something we'll have to see going on from now, and it's going to be interesting to see how his career is affected. It's going to be interesting to see how the Braves' year is affected, and just overall what does happen. So, yeah, that is it for our first segment here, talking about Ronald Acuña Jr. and the Atlanta Braves, and just what did end up happening here, and just the unfortunate situation of him tearing his ACL again. We'll be moving into our second segment, which is going to be talking about Paul Skeens and the start to his career, and just how impressed I've been and my overall thoughts on it. So yeah, going over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks you so much, and bye.